Hi everyone, welcome to Purposive Communication, and I am going to be one of your instructors in this course. I am Edward Inong. I'm one of the full-time faculty members of the Institute of Arts, Sciences and Teacher Education under Languages and Literatures Department. Purposive Communication is a new course in the new curriculum, and I did not take this in college. What we had back then was English 1, 2, 3, and business comm or technical writing for the others, or technical. So this is a new course, and with that said, we were able to train ourselves. We're batch 2 at Baliwag University. We have successfully completed our CHED faculty training for the teaching of the new general education core courses last 2007, or in the year 2017, I should say. And yes, this was done in Baliwag University. For 3 straight weeks, we did our training there from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we were able to complete it. So rest assured that we know this subject. And before we ask you to do anything, we already took it like you guys there. Let's talk about the course itself. On this video, you will be oriented on exactly what this new course is. Let's start with the course title, which is Purposive Communication. The course code is GEC 103. As you can see, we call it course. In layman's term, we would say course for BS accountancy or education, but technically, course is subject when it comes to college. So we'll moving forward, we'll call it course. So not subject, and I hope that is clear to everyone. The number of units is 3, and there is no prerequisite. For an idea about what is a prerequisite, like what I've said before, back in college, our English or communication subjects were English 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the rest of them. You cannot take English 2 if you were not able to take English 1, which means English 1 is the prerequisite of English 2. So that's pretty much it. Okay. In the case of purposive communication, there is no prerequisite. This is being offered mostly to all programs. There we go. When we say programs, that's actually the course that we know when we call it in layman's term. And it is mostly offered during the first semester of the first year level of a college student. In the Institute of Arts, Sciences and Teacher Education, it is being offered for BS Biology. It's being offered during the second semester. And I believe we are on the first semester of this school year. That's why you have this course with you. Let us go to the course description. The course description is based on the CMO number 20 series of 2013. Purposive communication is writing, speaking, and presenting to different audience and for various purposes. Now, to further explain that, let us deal with the entire course description. In the first paragraph, we read, Purposive communication is a 3-unit course that develops students' communicative competence and their cultural and intercultural awareness through multimodal tasks that provide them opportunities for communicating effectively and appropriately to a multicultural audience in a local or global context. Now, let us stop there and let us highlight the keywords of the first paragraph of the course description. It says there again, Purposive Communication is a 3-unit course that develops number 1, students' communicative competence. Or in layman's term, we call it comm skills or communication skills. Now, most of you might think of it as it's all about speaking in English fluently or spontaneously, but actually it's not. Communicative competence is far from just speaking about English fluently or spontaneously, and I will explain why. Let's talk about communicative competence first. In a communication, or when an individual communicates, he or she would either speak or write. Okay. With that said, and now that you have that knowledge, it's not again all about speaking in English fluently or spontaneously, because sometimes you have to write. Okay. And furthermore, for communicative competence, to have a much clearer picture of it, let us have Cannell and Swain's model of communicative competence. Cannell and Swain are communication professors or experts back in the 70s, and they have developed this diagram or model, I should say, that would better explain it. As you can see in the center, we have communicative competence, and there are four competencies that surrounds it, namely grammatical competence, social linguistic competence, discourse competence, and strategic competence. Let us start with grammatical or linguistic competence. This competence is all about your vocabulary, your grammar, and pronunciation. Okay, and if you have grammatical competence, it would mean that you know already what to say or what words you need to use when you communicate, which is again either when you speak or when you write, and that's under vocabulary. If you are grammatically competent, you should know how to construct your sentences, again, either when you speak or when you write. That's under grammar. And of course, your pronunciation is clear in each word that you said, uh, particularly when it comes to speaking. Okay. But from my experience on developing communicative competence, you don't have to worry about pronunciation, or should I say accents. I remember people, of course, even me personally, I would say that it's lovely to hear people having accents, but accents don't really matter at all when it comes to communication. For as long as you are understood, you are able to communicate then, or you have grammatical or linguistic competence. And to add more, when it comes to pronunciation, other people would always correct other people saying that that's not the correct pronunciation. If you're going to ask me personally, I don't think there is such there is such a correct pronunciation, if I may say, or there's really no such thing as correct pronunciation. Um, each word are pronounced in a variety of ways. If I may start with English, we have two standards, right? The British and the American standard. And like the word organization, that is being pronounced in the American standard as organization. For British, it's pronounced as organization. So you see, there's a variety of pronouncing the word depending on the, what do you call this? The standard. So it's not really, there's no really such thing as correct pronunciation, if I may add that, or if I may just tell that as early as now. It would be best to say the correct pronunciation as far as American standard is concerned, or as far as British standard is concerned. There you go. Next would be the social linguistic competence, and this is all about communicating formally and informally. When do we really communicate, speak or write formally, or when do we communicate informally? Of course, as future professionals, you should be aware already that once you are a graduate and you're starting to practice your profession, then you should have this kind of competence that when you're if you're a teacher, when you're at school, you should speak and write formally. When you're at home, you should in being casual or informal would do. So it's pretty much knowing the right time and place for you to, you know, say or communicate formally or informally. And that's what social linguistic competence is all about. Next up would be the discourse competence. Now, when we say the word discourse, it's all about conversation, when you are having a conversation. Sometimes when you're having a conversation, there are questions and there are answers. But in order for you to project that you have communicative competence, you should be able to have thought organization. Thought organization is very simple. Have you ever been asked this kind of question? If you were an animal, what would you be and why? It's very pageant, right? For those who are working or who are working students, of course, you have been asked already, why should we hire you? How can we make sure that we project communicative competence in answering these questions? Simple enough. For discourse competence, or you should have thought organization, which means you should have always introduction, body, and conclusion whenever you communicate. Again, a professional should know when and how to start and how to give details and how to end it. Because if they are unorganized, I mean, when you communicate and it's unorganized, then communicative competence will not be exhibited, especially when you're applying to work or when you're in a pageant or when you're in an oral examination. The last one would be strategic competence. Strategic competence is all about dealing with disfluencies. Now, what are disfluencies in the first place? Disfluencies are what we call pauses. When one person cannot speak or he would like to speak but he can't for some reasons, he forgot what he or she is trying to say or doesn't know what to answer and must answer and they are silent, it would mean that they are doing this pause, silent pause, or in other terminologies, we'll call it the dead air. Especially field pauses are actually clues or they send messages when a person continuously keeps on saying, uh, um, um, it's all about him not able to communicate well. Communicative competence is not being reflected at all in that case because if that person is knows what he or she is trying to say, then he should be able to speak or primarily speak fluently and spontaneously. Also, we have overused stock expressions, which are the okay, all right, and I can still remember Manny Pacquiao before. He used to keep on saying, I think I know, right? Or I'm sorry, it's you know. But now you would rarely listen to him saying you know because that was already removed from his communicative way of dealing with people. I guess it's because of exposure as well. That's a big start or a big key, I should say, in order for you to avoid those. When you're in an environment that is continuously speaking in English, like the call centers that we have in Clark, then yes, it can be developed. Those can be stopped or removed, and even my students before in the past were asking me if um, going to a call center is a good idea. I would definitely say yes because even a year or so would improve your communication skills or your communicative competence. And there are a lot more. And I hope you had lessons for how to deal with these types of disfluencies when you were in senior high school. In the real world, if you remember, we have four modes of communication, which are the extemporaneous, impromptu, manuscript, and memorized. It's The impromptu part of, you speaking at the spur of the moment is very minimal. One particular scenario would just be during the job interview and or any oral test, and that's just enough already. Most would be planned or under extemporaneous speaking, so you would have time to prepare. And the one thing that you need to remember would be to always start with the grammatical competence. For you to reflect or exhibit communicative competence, you have to make sure that you have the right words to use. You have constructed well your sentences. You have clear pronunciation of your words. Social linguistic competence, you have to be formal, of course. Discourse competence, you have organized what you are going to say, which was wherein you should have introduction, body, and conclusion. And the last part would be the strategic competence. You can avoid these by doing the first three already, or having the first three competence already. And that is communicative competence. So I hope this time it's clear that when we talk about communicative competence or communication skills, it's not all about speaking in English fluently or spontaneously. You have to consider the rest of the competencies that we mentioned earlier. Next would be cultural and intercultural awareness. When, again, one communicates to another, there is a possibility that they would misunderstand each other. Even us Filipinos are not exempted when it comes to that. But thinking about you, or if try to think about yourself, if even us Filipinos are no excuse of having misunderstanding when it comes to communication, how about other nationalities? So talking about cultural and intercultural awareness is this. Are you ready to communicate to them? As a future professional, it would not limit you to just work here in our country, but you would also work in another country. So do you think you are ready to communicate with them or simply talk to them or write to them? Now, purposive communication aims to develop this by studying in our course different cultures or awareness, the hand gestures, and a lot more concerning about why is it that in their culture they say these things, or some things cannot be said or cannot be done. So it's pretty much about that. And that's why the second that needs to be developed, or that purposive communication aims to develop, is the cultural and intercultural awareness of the students. And how do we do that? First, through multimodal tasks. When we say multimodal, it's many ways, because the root word of the word multimodal is mode. Mode is way. Okay. I remember during our training, we were asked to do this, a promotional poster of a comedy concert for a cause. And as you can see, the logos of the schools, I was there. I'm a Balacat City College. I was grouped with Pisao. This is St. Mary's, I think. Bulacan Agricultural. During the training, we had different representatives of different schools. So I'm there were they were our classmates, and we were grouped for group works. Then there, I want you to take a look at the promotional poster and try to ask yourself, why is it that we use the colors red, yellow? Why did we use at the background bricks and the lights? There's always purpose in communication, or when one communicates, he or she should really have a purpose. Let's start with the colors. Red and yellow will signify joy or happiness. The bricks, as you can see, would be Yes, since it's a comedy concert for a cause, for the benefit of the haven for the elderly. As bricks are old architectural designs, they best represents the elderly people. So that's the purpose why we use the bricks, and the lights, of course, are the concerts. And since it's a comedy concert, as you can see, we have two comedians and we have two singers. So you see, there is really a purpose in communication. Let us see if you're going to do that in the next modules that you're going to study. There we go. Now with provide you opportunities for communicating effectively, appropriately to a multicultural audience in a local or global context. The end goal of this course is really for you to be able to communicate to a lot of people, not just only Filipinos, but even other nationalities, provided, of course, with the use of the English language. Now, for the course description, um, oh, let's read the rest, I should say. It equips students with tools for critical evaluation of a variety of texts and focuses on the power of language and the impact of images to emphasize the importance of conveying messages responsibly. The knowledge, skills, and insights that students gain from this course may be used in their other academic endeavors, their chosen disciplines, and their future careers as they compose and produce relevant oral, written, audiovisual, or web-based output for various purposes. Earlier, you heard me say that when one communicates, it's either he or she would speak or write primarily, but with the technology that we have now that is so advanced, of course, there would be audiovisuals, web-based types of communication, and it's not just limited to speaking and writing. It can be recorded, and you have to be ready, or you should have the skills in order for you to communicate well. Not again, not only to your fellow Filipinos, but also to other nationalities. We have course objectives under knowledge, under skills, and under values. Don't worry, I'll go ahead and just post a copy of this orientation in written format soon. So don't worry. You can read the course objectives once the written form or the written format of this orientation is already available and uploaded. And the course outline, of course, we have modules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. For module 1, the title is Communication Processes, Principles, and Ethics, and that's going to be me, which means I'm going to be I have prepared the modules or the module and even the examination. After that, I would no longer be your instructor. Miss Jonabel and De Leon will take over for communication and globalization, followed by Miss Jaira May Hipolito for registers, messages, image, valuation, aids and strategies, and communication for various purposes. For communication for work purposes and communication for academic purposes, Mr. Genesis Arca Bigting would be the one to be your instructor and eventually your last one. Now, um, for the grading system, always remember that we follow still the 60-40 computation, which means for class standing, it will be 60%, which is going to consist of the average score of all your worksheets from modules 1 to 6. If in one of your in module 1, I assure you that there's only one worksheet, so that's gonna be a sure thing. For modules 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, I'm not sure, but if you have like in module 2 two worksheets, or in 4 or 5 or 6, they are just going to get the average scores, and then they will sum up the average scores and get the average score of that, or the mean score, and that would be weighing 60% already of your final grade. Now, the final worksheet is, or final output is 40%. This is pretty much going to be an output. I believe you're going to be making an advocacy video, which you will be uploading online for us to watch. For the details, please wait and we'll post it for you, like in the middle of um, the cycle 2 schedule. So that's pretty much going to be after module number 3. And you may start doing it after that, and you may upload once the link is already available. And again, it's not going to be a written test. You're going to be producing an output, which is an advocacy video. For those who do not have access for devices or gadgets, we can definitely talk about that once you were able to raise your situation. Our schedule is the broadcast is Thursday 9 a.m. to 12, online consultation Monday 1 to 4, and instructional related activities Tuesday 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And I would like to take time to discuss this schedule. I know you might be confused with the setup now because it's not the usual, it's not face to face. We are following a modular distance learning approach with a flexible learning scheme, which means that there are minimal meetings. For broadcast, I would like you to know that your teachers are not required to broadcast or have a live discussion of each module that they are assigned to them. Or if they are handling an entire course, they are not required to do so. But they must provide learning materials like the instructional materials that you have now, which we call modules, for you to read and study. Now, for online consultation, an instructor would always be available on that particular time for you to answer, for him to answer any of your queries. But pretty much you can chat them anytime. But as far as professionalism goes, you shouldn't be chatting or asking for any queries like around after 10 already. For me, it's after 10 or after 9. When a student is alive and wake during 1 a.m. and expects a teacher to answer or an instructor to answer him or her during that time, that's a no-no. But for our course, and please check your other courses schedule, online consultation is a designated time for the instructor to answer any of your queries. He may go on live too, that's an option, but there, you don't have to, if you don't have any queries, I should say, you may not attend that live, or it's really up to you if you have any question or concern. That time, I assure you that the instructor is available. The instructional related activities is all about a time that is designated for you to do or accomplish the worksheets. In my case, because of the schedule, that's going to be extended. But if there were no storm or typhoon that devastated the part of Luzon, since I think the first module for cycle 2 is from November 9 to Friday. The due date for the worksheet would be until Friday of next week, and that's or Saturday of next week. So you have more than a week to do that. But you with Tuesday 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. for instructional related activities, that is the time designated for you to do it. You may not do it on that time, but you don't have reason anymore to say that you don't have time at all. Okay, but these schedules are just for us to be guided and not be able to be confused with the modular distance learning approach. It's really up to you. It's the student space that would always be considered always. It's we follow your pace, but we have to set schedule for you to finish everything. There we go. And for some classroom policies and requirements, first, since you were able to hear, will not be graded, that's for sure, because that we follow a modular distance learning approach. I believe Ding Dong Dantes was a graduate of the modular distance learning approach of a university in the Visayan region. I think that's Dumaguete, or in Dumaguete. He need not to attend his classes. That's why he's distance learning. But for you guys, since you're on the same approach, no need to worry about attendance. It will not be graded. So don't have to worry as well about um, being synchronously online with the teacher if they are going to have a live broadcast. Of course, for you to finish purposive communication or get a grade for purposive communication, you must accomplish all worksheets from modules 1 to 6, and you have to accomplish the final output. And it would depend on the instructor if you will get an incomplete grade, because in college you may get an incomplete grade if you were not able to, let's say, accomplish at least one. Like, um, since we have a 60-40 computation, if you only have final, have all the worksheets, then definitely that's an incomplete grade, or that's even going to be a failing grade. And of course, communicate professionally to your instructors. I would like you to really project or have the courtesy at all times to communicate to your instructors. A simple greeting would do, and then you can tell your concern. As I have noticed, we are using instant messaging so much this day and age. I'm talking about Messenger. Messenger is one example of instant messaging, and that's what we use, right? Aside from calling or texting. Now, when you chat your instructors, not only me, but all of them, you have to make sure that you communicate professionally to your instructors. You should start now. And I would like to say this because this is your class, this is your communication class, and you'll get there soon and you would see that it works well. Everything works well with proper communication. Professionals do that. When one needs something, they have to do it professionally. It's either they will do a courtesy call, or they would write a letter of request, and there's a lot more to learn, actually, I know. But when you have that character or that value, that you always properly communicate, you don't demand, and we're not talking about English anymore, it's in any language, then you won't have a problem. That I can assure you. And with that, that ends the orientation for Purposive Communication, or GEC 103. I hope if you have any questions or concern, you can definitely chat me. I think, but I'm following an institute protocol that only the mayors are going to communicate with me and the rest of the instructors. So if you have question or concern, that if it's really an emergency, then you can definitely chat me. But if not, try to follow that protocol, because there's a purpose why we did that. Because when you start to work, it's going to be that way, that you cannot go directly to the manager. Like in my case, I'm the manager. Your class mayors are the supervisors, and you have to go through them first, or else you're going to bypass them. As early as now, we are trying to prepare you to become future professionals, so please do that. With that, again, thank you so much. This is your first instructor, and just chat for any question or concern. Thank you so much.